Over the last few months, we've been telling a lot of stories, and here are some of my favorites. Starting with the worst haircut I've ever got. So I like the lady who cuts my hair, right? She's great. I've been going to her for, I think, 2 years now. It's only recently that I've started actually trying to grow more facial hair. And with trying that, I was like, hey, would you be able to trim up my beard? She said, sure. She used no shaving cream, no water, no nothing. My neck was as dry as sandpaper, and it felt like it too. So she's just going down, and it's like petting a cat backwards. It's terrible. And I'm wincing as she's doing it. She's going along, she's talking to other people in the chairs, because I don't really like to talk too much when I'm getting my hair cut. Sue me, I didn't sign up for a conversation. She trims up my beard, she goes then to the haircut, and as she's cutting my hair, my neck just goes red. In these perfectly aligned stripes down my neck. It was you could scan it with a barcode. It's how bad it was. She's just like, oh my God, I'm not gonna be allowed to cut your hair forever. Does it hurt? And I'm like, yeah, it doesn't feel great. She's like, oh my God, it looks like a cat scratched you. So she walks me up to the front and she's like, please just charge him half price. I feel terrible. The lady at the front desk, she's like, what happened? Looks at my neck and goes, oh my God, did that just happen? Who did that? And she's like, I did that. She's like, you did that? But the funniest part of the interaction to me was that she takes my card. She's like, well, would you want to put any gratuity on there? And I'm like, I'm fine. She looks up from her computer, looks at my neck and goes, yeah. So that was the last time I went. My sister, she's pregnant. She's having another kid. And they're trying to think of a good name for this kid. She's thinking about it. There's a storm overhead. And she's like, I would like something that summarizes a storm. That's her favorite weather. So I'm trying to think. I'm like, tempest. She says, no. I'm like, okay, let me look it up synonyms. I'm like, Gale? She says, that's a girl's name. I'm looking even more. And I find my perfect one. And I say, brouhaha. And she's like, what? I was like, that's what they have here on Google. It's brouhaha. She did not like it. I was taken off of the idea board. I thought it was funny. Maybe that's not the word you're looking for when you're trying to think of your kid's name is funny. So my girlfriend lost $10,000 to Mark Rober. They, of course, have the shot that you can see in some of Mark Rober's videos, where he says, if you make this shot with this cannon and you hit the bullseye, I'll give you the $10,000 briefcase there. But they only let you do one shot. That's it. One shot and you're done. So everyone's lining up for this, right? Maybe it's fortunate that they're bundling this with an open bar. So some of the YouTubers who are going and doing this are a little worse shot, let's say. And so everyone's lining up. They make you sign your name on the wall. You can take as many practice shots as you want, but as soon as you actually do your attempt, you're no longer viable for it. And so I was like, I'm not coming back to Crunch Labs. It'd be cool to have my name on the wall. Sure. I put my name on the wall there. Take my shot, I hit the ceiling, and I'm like, got it, cool. But my girlfriend then goes up to the plate. She actually, knows how to shoot and stuff. I mean, she's military, so she's a lot better for it, right? She goes, she eyes up her shot. I'm filming it. Boom. Boom. We check the footage, and I'll let you all source out for yourself, but I've gone frame by frame in this video, and it sure looks like she hit it. Well, apparently it's got to go down the tube after hitting the target, so it was close, but no $10,000. Unless Mark wants to do double or nothing. When I was growing up, and I was watching Minecraft YouTubers in 2012, 2013, all of them had some item that they would go crazy about, whether that was gold, or for Simon from the Oxcast, it was the cookies, it was the Jaffa cakes. I thought if I ever wanted to be a Minecraft YouTuber, I had to have a thing. And my thing was gonna be pumpkin pie. It had just got it added in, and I was like, pumpkin pie, that's me. I'm gonna be the pumpkin pie guy. Everyone will remember me. I guess that's still possible. I don't think that's the measure of success. So amongst all my friends, I would tell them I am the pumpkin pie person. I mean, that's a pretty good food source to have. Look, there's worse items to pick than pumpkin pie. I wasn't the Podzol guy. I'm fulfilling multiple dreams with this series is what I'm telling you. Let me say, I'm disappointed that getting wood, one of the most famous achievements in this game, doesn't exist anymore. Now it's called Minecraft. I don't know why they would get rid of that. It bothers me. I feel like that's the kind of state that you get into when you've played Minecraft for so long. I am just that Minecraft boomer shaking my fist at the sky. They've changed so much about this game, and we've got our finger on the pulse of all of it because we have to record it all. I think it's also that you just, when you play Minecraft enough, you just kind of lock it to this period in your life. So I'm just like, oh man, I grew up playing Minecraft in this way. I remember when 1.6 came out. Skeletons were a much worse shot. I preferred that. And I remember logging onto the server that I played every day of that summer, and there was just horses. Everyone was riding horses around. Coal and charcoal looked the exact same. It was really confusing. You want to talk about Minecraft feeling modded? Horses were in Mo Creatures. I remember those mod review videos from like Yogscast and them showing off Dr. Jark's horses. And like to get that in the game, it was like, oh my God, this is like the most insane model that Minecraft's ever had. And it was a horse. And now we got sniffers and breezes, and I know I sound ancient just talking about all of this, but you just see so many different things in this game changing. It happens slow enough where if you look at it, you can be like, oh, okay, well, how much has actually changed? And then you go back to an old version, even just like 1.16, and you're like, wow, all these things that I'm used to, just gone. At OpenSauce, I played Minecraft on the world's largest keyboard. So the way that OpenSauce works is that it's basically just like a giant science fair. It's everyone agree to show something off, then you get your ticket covered, and you could just bring in whatever weird science project you have. So people are bringing in like a Furby robot that walks around, they're bringing in real Iron Man armor, all the craziest things you can imagine. And one of them was this couple from Utah who brought in their 16-foot keyboard, all made out of cardboard, that allows you to play Minecraft, send a tweet, all these different things. It works just like a regular keyboard. So we did a video where we played Minecraft on the world's largest keyboard, and that was hilarious in all the messed up ways that you can imagine. But that was a very fun project, probably the most involved athletically I've ever be while playing Minecraft. Because it's a 16-foot keyboard, you have to run around that thing. It's like the scene in Big where he's dancing on the giant keyboard. My Apple Watch didn't know what to do. I think that's the first time that any amount of exercise has ever pulsed through it. My roommate, as I've mentioned, is a race car driver, and he's sponsored by an energy drink. And I'm not gonna tell you which energy drink because they don't sponsor me. My recommendation is drink water, and lots of it. But anyway, they delivered him a pallet of their drinks, and not like a tasting pallet. He gets a pallet of the stuff delivered, which is 2,000 pounds. He's like, oh, okay, it's gonna be delivered. Gives me like a 4-hour delivery window, which I just love, by the way. Every time that someone tells me like, oh yeah, we're gonna be there between like 10 and 2, and then they show up at like 2:15, awesome. It's just one guy who's dropping off the pallet. So if you could imagine 2,000 pounds, one guy, he's like, oh, dispenser told me you're gonna help move this. And I was like, I guess now I have to. Otherwise, there's just 2,000 pounds left in my driveway. He opens up the truck, says this is 2,000 pounds, and my pallet jack, the thing to go underneath it, can only move about 1,200. So he's like, we're gonna have to start stripping cases off the top of this thing. So we have to move 800 pounds worth of cases off of the top of this thing. He gets there, it's midday, so we're like out in the Vegas heat, just moving stuff. We finally strip off a lot of the cases, we go and move it into the garage, and then it's time to move the pallet. He's like, all right, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start swinging. I'm gonna swing this around and try to use the momentum of the hill to get it up your driveway. And I'm like, sure. We swing it around, sure enough, we're able to get it up into the driveway, and then just kind of left in the garage. There's so much of this energy drink now. It's tough, right? Because energy drinks are something that like you can only drink maybe 2 of them a day. Otherwise, it's becoming a health risk. So we're gonna be drinking these forever. The way that I do the like motion tracking for this VTuber model, it's a modified GoPro harness that goes on my chest that I have to put on and then put this thing called a leap motion inside of it that then tracks my hand gestures. It's just a really funny setup. So I have to sit down in my chair, strap myself up in a harness that it's a little tight. It feels like I'm wearing a sports bra, and then put on my headphones. It's a weird uniform that this job requires. Where I lived growing up, we had a very high amount of coyotes. Regardless of what we did to the house to try and protect, like we added an extra 5 feet of like fence and stuff, like the coyotes would just get in. I guess effectively we lost 2 dogs to coyotes. One of our dogs was taken away and we never got her back. My parents' littlest dog, she's a Maltese poodle, so a little tiny, yappy, scruffy white dog that everyone has, right? That dog was taken away from our backyard and we thought that we had lost her. The next day we check, my dad checks outside and just sees this like, just a heap out in her bed, her dog bed. And he's just like, oh God, like, did they drop it back off again, the coyotes? No. What had happened is that I guess 2 coyotes had fought over her, dropped her, she ran back, made it back into my parents' backyard, and like, she's still alive. Like that was, I think 12 years ago, and she's still here. She's still kicking it. So, I mean, how impressive is that, right? And then my parents got a Rottweiler, and ever since that, no more coyote problems. I seriously regret the first time I tried Takis. My sister's playing Mario Odyssey. I'm watching, occasionally playing Cappy, and I am eating an absurd amount of Takis. I'm licking my fingers as I go to get the Taki dust off, but as I soon found out, there's a level of spice that's residual on that. And with that, I go and wipe my eye just to like itch it. As you can see through these recordings, I itch my face constantly. I apparently have a very itchy face. Sure enough, I got Taki dust in my eye. And at that point, you don't care what the Scovilles are. Any Scoville amount is too much in your eye. I go like, sis, my eye hurts. What do I do? And she's like, she starts laughing. Which, fair. I mean, you gotta laugh at the hilarity of the situation before you help it. And she's like, I don't know, go ask my husband. I go over to him. He's gaming on something else. He's playing like Rainbow Six Siege. I'm like, what do I do? And he's like, I don't know, put water in it. And I'm like, I think I should put milk. And he's like, why would you put milk? You could put water in it. And I go, okay. And then I go and put water on it, and then it just spreads the spice more. It just hurts even more than I thought it would. I'm like, stellar. I am now going to try my original idea of putting milk in. They're not milk drinkers, so they only have like one teeny tiny bottle of Altadena. I pour it onto a napkin, put that on my eye. That finally helps. The spice starts to subside. What didn't subside was the nickname. I'm now called Spice Boy by the two of them. I don't like sushi. I've tried it multiple different times. There was one story I have where I went to go to Austin, Texas. This is actually right before my niece was born. I was like, let me go get my traveling out of the way before I'm needed hands on deck. I went with Ryan he was like, oh man, I've got to take you to my favorite place, is the sushi place. And I was like, I don't know. I don't really like sushi. And he's like, I am such a picky eater and I love this place, so you got to try it. What am I gonna say? No? He's offering me, food. We go to the sushi place. I get ramen, luckily, and they give me the sushi, and it's like, okay, it's your turn. They serve it up to me, and they're like, here, take a bite. And I go for it, I immediately down it. I don't even take a bite. It crawled down my throat. I just swallowed. That was it. Just straight down the pneumatic pipe. He was like, oh, you didn't even taste it. And I was like, no, it tasted like fish. I'm okay. Thank you, though. And that was my sushi experience. Still can't say I'm a fan. That's not the end of the story, is that I tried sushi and I didn't like it. I then get home, I go to bed, wake up in the middle of the night, and I'm like, oh no. And I don't think I got food poisoning or anything from the sushi, because no one else that I went to dinner with got sick. Maybe it was the ramen. Maybe it was my fault for getting ramen at this sushi place. Minecraft is famous for doing these like really elaborate April Fool's pranks. And when I was young, I definitely fell for one. They were showing off Minecraft 2.0, that snapshot. The way that they did it is they gave it to Mindcrack. That was one of like the very early things along the vein of like Hermitcraft. A lot of like the former Mindcrack people are on Hermitcraft. Like it was started by Generic B, who like was on Mindcrack. BOO was on Mindcrack. Whole bunch of people. Basically, they did this prank where they were like, oh, we got early testing of this, which was believable because they're big YouTubers. And it was Seth Bling playing on it, and it was like Seth Bling had joined. And that's how I heard about it, was that I loved Seth Bling, and I was like, oh, Seth Bling joined Mindcrack, awesome. So I'm watching this, and they're like, also, you're gonna be able to join Mindcrack. Reach out to Etho's lab, and Etho wasn't in that episode. So I was like, oh my gosh. I remember calling up my friend and being like, dude, we're gonna be able to join Mindcrack. I'm gonna reach out to them and like, maybe we'll join. As if they would just take like any random 12-year-old with like no experience in the game to be like, guys, I found the next member. I remember I was so excited. I was like, this is it. Like I've made it. We're about to be a part of Mindcrack. I was not a part of Mindcrack. Would you believe it? So I'm going to the farmer's market. I'm trying to be healthier. And while I'm at the farmer's market, there's this guy who's selling honey and milk. And I'm like, okay, cool. My girlfriend grew up with a milkman, so I was like, I'm going to go and buy her some milk. She'll be very happy. I have this whole thing pictured out. I'm holding a jar of milk over my head, and I'm just like getting carried out like it's the end of like an after-school special. As I'm fantasizing about that, I go to buy this milk, and he's like, oh, that's raw milk. And I'm like, okay, it's raw honey, so I didn't think anything about it. I thought like maybe it's a little like no GMO or whatever. And then as I'm purchasing my thing, I'm holding my phone up to the square. This other lady comes up, goes, "Oh, do you want to buy raw milk?" And she's like, "Oh, I don't know, I'm just too scared about it." And that's like as my phone makes the little ding to purchase it, and I'm like, scared? And then he passes me the raw milk out of a cooler, and he goes like, "Oh, you can take a drink out of that and prove to me you're not a Fed." And I was like, haha, because I'm awkward enough at these situations. And like, he was already talking pretty colloquially. I walked over to lunch from there, just a little place next to the farmer's market. As I was looking it up, I just typed in the words raw milk. The first thing that auto-completed was raw milk CDC. And I thought, oh. And then I read it, and it said, like, raw milk is illegal to sell within the United States. And I went, oh. And apparently, it is illegal to sell raw milk like that because as soon as, like, pasteurization was implemented, way less kids had to die. And it's like, oh, that sounds really helpful. I go deeper into this rabbit hole because I'm like, I've already put in my few bucks into buying a thing of raw milk. I'm learning about this. And like, farmers won't even drink their own raw milk. I've seen it sold at some grocery stores. And I'm like, how in the world is it sold at a grocery store? It's marked as not for human consumption. What you would do is you would mix it in with like your dog food. And then that's how it like is allowed to be sold in those cases. But for me, no. So I'm like, oh, okay, all right. Well, I just immediately threw it away. My roommate, I told him this story, and he's like, "You didn't even give it a taste?" And I was like, when the first result for anything is CDC, there's no chance of giving it a shot. If you search skip the tutorial, and it was like, skip the tutorial CDC, I don't even care what the article says. It could be like, skip the tutorial is great for your health. That's not a good association. I wasn't gonna become patient zero in the raw milk craze. I'm perfectly fine with my ultra filtered milk. My roommate, he went out of town to this place in Arizona called Salt River. Now, Salt River is more accurately called Slop River. And he goes with a couple of his friends, and they just go and float down the river in inner tubes. He's been to this once before. There's a phrase that they've started repeating, which is the river takes. And I'll tell you what the river took. They're floating down this river, and parts of this river, it's supposed to be like 4 hours to float down the length of it. They hit a part in the river where there's a little bit of like whitewater rapids, and they're trying to steer themselves away, do anything they can. No luck. One of the inner tubes flips over, their friend falls out. They have to hold themselves on a branch to like stop and grab him. They do that, they get back together with the friend. They hit the rapids, another set, and they like all tumbles out. They lose everything, they lose food, phones, all of it. They pull what they can onto a neighboring bank. They're just hanging out, right? They all start laughing about like how crazy of a situation this was. The one friend who had tumbled out, he's like, that's crazy. Could someone tell me like what happened? They're like, what? What do you mean? He's like, yeah, I mean, that's just so wild, but like, I don't remember anything from the last 15 minutes. And cut back to this guy a little later. They're trying to figure out kind of their inventory of what they've lost. And he is just head in hands, hunched over, like not in a good spot. It's hard to say whether it was like heat stroke or he drank something wrong, or I don't know, he was the one who tumbled out, so like maybe it was like some kind of concussion thing. Like it's any theory that you can come up with has been tested. No one quite knows what happened. That's what the river took. They didn't successfully float down the cruise this time. So they were dedicated. They were ready to go back down and make it all the way. I get a text this morning when I'm recording this, and he says, "The river took." And I go, oh, what did it take? And I check his location, and it is just his, I have a picture of it because it's so funny. It's just his icon just stuck, unmoving in the middle of the river. I'm in my house, and I start hearing this buzzing noise. The sound that just drives me crazy, which is weird because I swear that I removed the heart from underneath the floorboards. So I was like, something else is telltale right now. You reach a certain point where music isn't drowning it out anymore, and I'm not gonna put on headphones in my own house. I'm by myself. I'm not going to try to be respectful of it, you know what I mean? So I'm start walking around my kitchen. I'm like, where is it? Did it get through? We have issues with weather stripping, so I was like, maybe that's it. No, it turns out that it was right above where my vent hood in my kitchen goes to. There was a cicada on the top of that, which is outside the house. So, in a bright idea, I turn on the vent at the max speed, and I just hear the cicada go from to just whoosh, and it's gone. It's been gusted away by a big blast of air. So that was me settling the score with at least that cicada. I had just got done seeing Aquaman 2, terrible movie, with my dad and my roommate Dispenser. Basically, we're waiting at a light, and we're in the leftmost lane. This person wants to exit onto the freeway. So what they do is they go horizontal, just perpendicular to traffic, cut across multiple lanes from the far right lane, and I'm like, wow, this person's stupid. And there's someone else driving in that leftmost lane because that's the exit to the freeway, and I'm like, they're gonna hit that person. They did not hit that person because they reverse. They keep reversing, hit my car. Bam. I honk, the light turns green, they speed away. And I'm like, oh my God, that's a hit and run. Not only is it a hit and run, it was a hit and run from a car with vanity plates. Vanity plates that said their first name. So I'm like, wow, this is dumb. I don't know if the person inside of the car was intoxicated or if they were just young. I mean, you could build a profile on this person pretty well. They were driving like a new Range Rover Sport, vanity plates, like it seemed like some kind of spoiled kid. And I was like, that's a very easily identifiable car. We start driving because that's just the direction back to our house. They speed off, they're bobbing and weaving like farmost left lane, farmost right lane. I think they saw us following. Eventually they lost us. We call the police and the highway trooper comes and they're just not happy that they have to deal with this call. Like no damage to my car, no damage to their car really. We would have just gotten out of the car and said, you pay for your thing, we'll pay for ours. That's about it. Nope, they wanted to make it into a felony, so not the brightest. I've got a girlfriend story to tell. It's one of the most heartwarming things someone's done for me. So we were out with a couple of friends who had come to visit us in town. We went to a party, like a club. Already not my scene. I'm someone who very much likes music, but I also like having hearing when I get older. I already don't have the best hearing. I don't want to lose it any more than I already am. I'm like, I'll make the most of it. We start dancing, and I had been suffering for a while now, I think just because of like sinuses or allergies, a bunch of nosebleeds. Unfortunately, I get one of those nosebleeds. And so I tap her, and she's like, hey, what's going on? And I'm like, I've got a nosebleed. She turns around, and she's like, oh my God. And then we rush out of the club. When I tell you this girl took off the shirt off her back and gave it to me to take up the blood. It was one of the moments where I was like, oh yeah, this is gonna last. So I like this grocery store by my house, right? They are a little funny with how they do things. I went in with my roommate Dispenser. We're buying a couple of different groceries and they sell candy in bulk. So I was like, oh, I wonder if I could just buy these like individual root beer barrels because they're individually wrapped. So I just grabbed 2 root beer barrels for the both of us. I placed them down. The lady who's working there, she rings us up. She gets to the root beer barrels. They're just like slowly rolling on a treadmill as they're coming over. And she's like, oh, you could just take these. And we're like, oh, thanks. And then series of events is very random, so I have to make sure I'm remembering this right. She gets a scratch on her arm. She goes silent. Then she's ushered out by one of the other employees. And they're like, sorry, she's gonna have to go to the back. I can complete your transaction. And we're like, what just happened? And we were joking that like she had to pay for giving us free root beer barrels. Like, oh, well, you understand. Yeah, we're going to have to go put it in the cellar.
I worked as a fake electrician on data centers. I will admit, I almost got one person actually killed, and then I almost got myself killed multiple times. And I was called...
that's a good ratio. That's a good KD ratio.
Yeah, right?
Wait, how are you a fake electrician?
Okay, so when I got hired for that job, it was a small business. And as a small business, we were very eager to get any kind of jobs that we could. And my boss decided that since we were working at these big industry plants on electrical equipment, he needed to tell people that his employees, i.e. me, were electricians and or electrical engineers. So I would get to site and they would say, so where did you go to school? And I'd be like, what? And they said, yeah, where did you get your electrical engineering degree? And I'd be like, oh, Oxford.
Yeah, what would be your go-to university for that?
I always said the University of Michigan. I don't know why. I just thought that sounded better.
Did it work?
Yeah, it's terrifying because there were so many instances where we'd be working with high voltage industrial power, which is like enough to literally melt you into a puddle. People would be like, all right, so we need to know this thing about this so it doesn't overload the generators and blow everybody up. And I'd be like, yeah, flip it. And they would just do the things. I have been on sites where people have died in what we do, but like not
Really?
being involved. Like they were in like other teams of our team. So like there was 3 different instances where people were killed doing what I did. And it wasn't even like hard stuff. And like people would jump into these electrical panels and they would take tools. And sometimes you have like a wrench and the wrench falls just as a wrench does, and it would just immediately touch a bar and explode basically, and you would die. And anyone around you would likely die. And so it was just like this high pressure, high intense situation.
How old were you doing this job?
I started when I was 23 or 24.
That's insane.
Yeah, I quit when I was 26 or 27.
That's pretty recent.
There was one day, because everybody was so overwhelmed and scheduled like crazy trying to make up for time, we got all the way down through our testing to the breaker that led to the generator. And as we were like flipping it, this guy from the generators came in just screaming, "I'm doing my test, don't do anything." And like the guy stopped as he was like a hand on the breaker flipping it. And everybody was like, "What just happened?" He's like, "We all almost just died right now. Like had you opened that, we would all be dead." It was just like a constant thing of like, are we going to die today? Like electricity is terrifying.
How'd you get that job?
When I worked at the bank, I made friends with some people. And when they quit, they went to go work at that company. And then like a year later, they took me with them. And what was stupid, by the way, is when I took this job, we were, like I said, we were a small business. And the whole point was that they all just sat around and played Call of Duty all day. Like that, like, cause they didn't have enough business. So they were just like chilling. But as soon as I came on board, everybody decided, you know what, let's go play with some electricity for real.
They locked in when you joined. You were all like, ooh, Call of Duty, here we go. And they're like, actually about that.
And on top of that too, they would go to like a bar every day for lunch and have the company pay for it. Like it was
Awesome.
like a company treat kind of thing, right? So it was like all these perks. And then as soon as I joined, our boss came into town because he lived in Colorado. And he was like, why do I have like $2,000 worth of lunches to pay for all of you this month? And we're like, I thought that was part of the gig. He's like, that is not part of the gig. You are not getting lunches. I am not paying for anything.
That's crazy.
Dang it. Why'd I even work here? Everything I was told was a lie.
So I went to go see Guardians of the Galaxy 3 with my dad. We're in a nice theater, and it's one of those with recliner seats, and they come up to you and they serve the food and stuff. It rocks, right? While we're at this theater, there's these kids who are just like midway through the movie, just on their phones, you know, whatever. That I come to expect that. So these kids, partway before the movie ends, they throw up their popcorn to create a mess. They somehow jumped on the edge of the recliner seat in such a way that it like broke sideways like this. And I'm like, what in the, I've never seen a recliner break, period, but like that especially is insane. You know, those are expensive chairs, so I'm like, oh God. And what's even stupider about it is that you pay in advance with a credit card. So it's like, oh wow, these kids just do not have any comprehension of what's gonna happen because they have their details. You know, they left early to flee the scene. We walk out of the movie at the regular ending time. My dad and I see them outside of the theater. It's a glass front to the theater. They're just out there talking about what they did, laughing within plain view. It's absurd. I mean, I hope their parents had to pay for it. They were riding those like electric bikes, so you're just like, oh, okay, spoiled kids. Yeah, I've heard this song and dance before. I was driving to VidCon with my girlfriend and my roommate. We were just looking up Spotifys of different things. And on a whim, my roommate, Dispenser, he searches up Skip the Tutorial. And he's like, do you have stuff on here? And I'm like, I don't think so. And he's like, no, there's recent videos of yours here. And what's happening, and I don't want to bring these people any attention, but there's people who just literally steal our videos and then just upload them as full videos. I didn't know that Spotify even supported video, but apparently they do. And apparently they let people just upload our stuff. And he's like, oh, well, good news, man. You got a 4.6 rating. And I was like, thanks. So if you see something that I don't directly link to from these videos, it's not me. So my mom was driving around my niece so my sister could get some sleep, and she's driving just back and forth in the neighborhood at night. You know, we know that she was just, nap trapped trying to get the kid to sleep. But to a neighbor who was looking on, it seems eerily like she's casing the joint when you're just driving back and forth in the middle of the night. So they call the cops. And luckily, the cop comes, pulls up to my mom and says, you got a baby in there? My mom says, yeah, I'm trying to get her to sleep. And the cop says, well, okay, well, as you were. No good deed goes unpunished, I guess. Branzy gets a text from his mom saying, so excited, our Branzy merch is finally on its way. This confusing to Branzy, as he does not sell merch. And his mom had bought t-shirts, hoodies, mugs, the whole works. Apparently, there's someone selling counterfeit Branzy merch, and they're selling it to his mom, which is horrible. But the good news is that my Branzy merch business is going off the charts right now. So I'm feeling pretty good, folks. But yeah, so I connected Branzy with one of my friends who does merch to hopefully get that sorted out. I've got a girlfriend story that I am so excited that she's letting me tell. There's finally come the time in me and Dispenser's life where both of us have girlfriends at the same time. We're able to double date. I got this grill. I've been practicing grilling, and we're gonna make carne asada tacos. I went to the butcher, I got carne asada. One of the key things you need for carne asada tacos is carne asada. That's how you know that I'm of the culture. I'm out grilling. I'm in my peak dad form. Dad with no kids. So I guess that's just sad. But I'm in my peak sad form. I'm outside, and she's inside cutting up the veggies and stuff for our tacos. She comes outside, and she's like, babe, the knives are not sharp whatsoever. And I'm like, I feel like they're pretty sharp. And she's like, no, we're gonna have to go sharpen the knives. And I'm like, all right, well, we could just go down to like the hardware store and sharpen them. That's no big deal. I go back to grilling. A few minutes later, she comes up and her hand is over her head like this. She's, holding it against her head. She's bleeding. It's kind of like this. And I'm like, you okay? Did you hit your head? And she's like, earlier I said that the knives weren't sharp enough? Well, I just cut off my fingertip. And she's telling me all of this. I am eyes wide. I'm like, are you serious right now? She finishes her story, and I go, are the onions okay? Which I thought was very funny. She did not find so funny. After the fact, she did. My roommate was dying. She's fine. Her fingers all back to normal now. And we did eat the tacos. The tacos were delicious. I maybe stayed away from the onions. That's just a preference. I go to this Italian restaurant because it's one of the places that's open later. And I'm like, sure. My girlfriend was up to something, so it's just like, yeah, I guess I'll go to that. I'm waiting for a while at the host desk. And I'm just like, I'm gonna count in my head, and if I have to wait any longer, I'll just go to another restaurant. But like right towards I'm getting to the end of my count, this lady walks up. She walks me over to my table, sits me down. I got my headphones in, I'm about to watch some video essay. And she walks back a few minutes later and she says, I'm sorry, this is gonna be really like a weird question. You just seem really familiar. And she's like, are you Skip the Tutorial? So I'm like, oh, yeah, I am. And she's like, I used to watch your stuff all the time. And I'm like, used to? Ouch. And if by any chance she happens to see this, yeah, I'll take a reservation for 4 at 6:30. So I have an electric car, right? One time, while my friends were visiting, I left my laptop bag in the back of the car, open it up, go grab my laptop. That all goes fine. With my laptop out of the trunk, I close it. Big bolt battery was charging. Small bolt battery had died, and the car gave me no warning. So I am now stuck outside of my car. I've opened it and I'm not gonna be able to open it again. It's plugged into my house, but it's not doing anything. So I'm like, great, just great. I don't know what to do. My dad comes over. He has like a car jumper, right? Like a jump start kit for a car. We're like, okay, where do we plug in the cables to? Well, would you believe it? This car is designed in such a way where you can only access the small volt battery when the battery is working. That seems like putting the cart before the horse. I only want to look at it when it's not working. I've somehow managed to get the doors open, but even with the doors open, I can't close them again because the way that they seal the doors in this car is that they will push up the glass a little bit extra so that it goes in and kind of helps to lock the door. I call support. They don't come over directly. They're like, you're gonna have to drop it off at the dealership. We'll send over someone who can tow it. And I'm like, okay, I guess. So tow truck comes and they're like, okay, I'm going to have to close the door to be able to tow this. The odds are that's gonna break the glass. So I'm sitting there, my friends are waiting to go to the hotel, and I'm just like, I guess, okay, close it. I mean, what am I supposed to tell you? No, don't tow my car, I need my car to work. So he goes, closes the door, closes the other door, just smashed glass, now all in my car. I'm like, awesome, just the best. So the car's supposed to notify you like every 2 or 3 years that it would need that replaced. My car did not notify me. They acknowledged that it was their mistake because they did it all free of charge. I was with my friend at a convention from, if you watch Doug's videos, his name's Parkser. He's the funniest guy in the world to me. He's so literal with everything, but he has infinite patience, so he's the best person to ask hypothetical questions to, because he'll give you a straight answer, even if it's the dumbest thing. But Parkser, most interesting guy in the world. He was a volunteer on the police force. He used to be a Twitch streamer and then wants to become a lawyer. He was living nomadic for 1.5 years. Just a fascinating person in all respects. Everyone I've introduced to Parkser thinks he's the coolest guy. So anyway, I would say he's the most self-confident person I know. With that self-confidence often means that Parkser just like, you can't tell him what to do. I've been to multiple conventions with him. I've been to PAX. I've been to Open Sauce. Parkser does not like to wear the little badge that they give you around his neck at security. He doesn't like having anything around his neck. So I'm like, okay, most of the time that's fine. I'll wear it because I'm pretty staunchly a rule follower. Funnily enough, for a guy named Skip the Tutorial, I am terrified of not doing what people tell me. It gets us into a situation where I'm at con, we're talking about what to do. Parkser's not wearing anything around his neck. And he's like, okay, so what do we do next? And I'm like, I don't really know. And this lady, this security guard comes up and she's like, sir, could you please put that around your neck? And he's like, okay, I will. And he doesn't, and she's just still standing there, clearly befuddled, because she thought that if she asked once, that would have been it. She's like, hey, you really have to put that on. And he's like, no, it's fine. She's like, it's not. Like, you gotta put that on around your neck. And Parkser goes back to asking me. He's like, so what do you want to do? And I'm like, Parkser, you got security asking you what to do. This is what happens when an unstoppable force meets an immovable object. Like, there was just no way that either of them were going to give. So Parkser just keeps asking. And I'm like, why don't you just put it on? And he's like, no, it's fine. They're not security. And then they start calling someone. And he's like, so we just leave? And I was like, Parkser, why aren't you putting it on? We walk out. And I was like, dude, they're gonna kick you out. And he's like, oh, that's fine. I wanted to leave anyway. Just completely unfazed. He's a character and a half. And that's why we love him. My first ever video to get 1 million views was I played Minecraft, but every block looked the same. And that was in 2019, I recorded that. Back then I used to do these videos where it was like, can you beat Minecraft if every block looks the same? Can you beat Minecraft with permanent blindness on? And like by that point, I had not done Minecraft videos on my channel in a long time. And I was just like, oh, let me just try this as like a random thing. And I was in like my junior year of high school, and making a video in a week is tough enough. Making a video in a week when it's only you and you have to beat a game in the week as well, and you're 16, that was a pretty rough combination. It's no stranger why I got burnt out pretty quick there. But the resulting video I was very proud of. The numbers burned into my mind. Within 5 days, it had 1 million views. And that was just so insane to me. It's still insane to me. Like, if we had a video to do 1 million views in 5 days now, I'd be super excited. Like, it's a huge number. I went into school that week, and like people that I didn't talk to had seen the video. The classes that were like the most impactful for me were my physics and chemistry teacher and my photography teacher. In those classes, they were pretty good at like letting us just not do the set curriculum. And like a lot of the kids just took that to just like be on their phone and do whatever. I took that time to work on my YouTube channel. And like funnily enough, that's the stuff that stuck the most, right? And so the classes that were the most impactful for me were the stuff that let me kind of explore what eventually became my job. I mean, there was no way of knowing it then. It became real in high school. I was making money. It wasn't anything like, it would have been like below the median salary. Like it wasn't anything that proved that I could just like completely drop out. Pretty lucky that it worked out. So like a lot of like the Can You Beat videos and stuff, like I was working on thumbnails and editing inside of those classes. I woke up, I thought that I was having an allergic reaction. I'm not a very allergic person. It's like a recent thing that I've started having allergic reactions. I don't know if anyone else can relate to this, but like as I got older, I somehow got more allergic. Like I was able to put anything on my face back in the day. Like I would try any lotion and it was perfectly fine. And then all of a sudden when I hit my 20s, I just can no longer put things on my face without just having like a horrible allergic reaction. It's like I got a terrible sunburn on my skin and I don't know why. I go to a dermatologist and I'm waiting at this dermatologist for like an hour, right? And finally the dermatologist comes in, looks at me and he says, "I can tell right away, you're an allergic kid." And I said, I've never been allergic to anything in my life. This is new to me. He just says, "Get this. It's basically just a hydrocortisone, like a steroid cream." I mean, he barely looks at me and gives me this assessment. So I go and take that prescription to just a Target to get it filled, right? And while I'm at Target, the pharmacist pulls up my prescription. He says, "Do you know how to use this?" And I say, "No." And then he says, "So, okay, what you're gonna wanna do is you're gonna wanna peel open your eye and then drop a little bit of it in and that'll help out." I say, "Are you sure? It doesn't seem like the order of operations." And he says, "Oh, sorry. Yeah, actually looking at this, it says don't put it in your eye." And I said, "Great, fantastic. I'm glad that just everyone is super interested in my care right now. This is dope." And so I take it, I put that on my face, it doesn't help. My mom tries putting other lotion on my face, it doesn't help. She wants to put lotion on my face because my face is just dry. So now I'm just a soap and water guy, and that does the trick. What is something that you've put 1,000 hours into that's now effectively useless? I guess to me, the answer would probably be editing. I don't know how much I've talked about this. I used to edit for other YouTubers. That's kind of how I got my start. I reached out to 60 YouTubers. I heard back from 6. 4 of them were no's. And there was a channel called Loxton Noggin, which is like a Pokemon channel. And Loxton said, "Sure, edit." And I edited for Loxton. Funnily enough, a list video. So there you go. How about that? I got my start early to the list genre. And I edited for a Mario Kart YouTuber, TWD98, Troy. That was fun. I just got to do a lot of different styles of editing. I didn't have any interest in being an editor or anything at that time. I just wanted to do YouTube, but like I'd learned the skills from that to apply to my own channel, and now I don't really edit on our main videos. I do an occasional one, the 121 trailer versus reality video. That was me who edited that. And that kind of goes into my point of, is it something that I actually do in my day-to-day anymore? No. But I'm so grateful that I know how to do it, because if there's ever a case where I need to describe how to do something, I can talk from experience, right?
You were a featured guest at VidCon. How cool is that?
It was really cool. I got to do my first ever meet and greet.
Yeah, how did that go? Did you meet anyone? And did you, dare I ask, greet anybody?
Yes, VidCon staff was all very happy. They had to put multiple people on our line, which they told me in advance, and I was like, oh boy.
It would be really funny if I was just at the end of the line. I didn't tell you.
Well, that did kind of happen. So like while I was there, I see this person come up to me and they're like, "Oh, I love your collabs with BlockFacts." And I'm like, "Oh, thank you so much. Like BlockFacts is great. What's your name?" And he says, "BlockFacts." And I go, "Oh."
That's great, dude.
And it was like, cool. He was like one of the last people in line, and I was like, oh, okay. So shout out BlockFacts for coming over across the pond. That really caught me off guard. One of the editors asked me why my Minecraft skin, why is it red and white? Some of you, if you've been around with the channel for a long time, you might remember the skin used to look like me. It was just a blonde guy. And I was like, that's okay. It kind of looks like the channel profile picture, but I wasn't crazy about it. And I think at some point was like, I just want something that's just red. And I'd be lying if I told you that I didn't look at like dream skin and feel like, okay, that works really well in thumbnails. It's just a big blob. So I said, got it, big blob, that's the rebrand, let's do it. And I have since rebranded as a big red blob. The reason red is my favorite color, and I love the red and white combination so much, is actually kind of stupid. I had this Coca-Cola shirt, which I think was from like Abercrombie, and I just really liked the look of that shirt, and red and white was just a very comforting color combination for me, which is funny because red's a very stressful color. But it worked for me, and I've been red and white since. In life, you don't have to get used to being uncomfortable, you just have to get used to being uncomfortable for little bits. And I think when people talk about mental toughness, they talk about it in like way too buzzwordy, intense of a way. I actually think that all you need is just, can you do something for a few minutes, right? And for me, you know, sometimes that's recording. There's some days where I just want to hang out and play other video games instead of this one. Going to the gym is a big one. People are very much momentum based, is what I've found. And once you start doing something, it's very easy to keep doing it. It's just hard to start something. An example I'll give is I go back and forth on cold showers. I think a lot of the people who talk about cold showers, they talk about it in a very annoying way. And I don't think, from what I've seen, there's nearly as much science as people claim. However, there was a video by a channel, Answer in Progress, which I think is great. Their conclusion was cold showers, you know, whether or not the science is there, who knows? But when you take a cold shower, you're doing something hard, and then you finish it, and then you feel better about yourself. And that's enough. And I think particularly getting used to doing things that are tough in these little micro ways every now and then is a really good way to build up tolerance for other stuff. The thing is that the more you do that, the more used to it you get, until eventually I can apply that to other things in my life. Just go, okay, I know it's gonna start off and be bad, cleaning my room, whatever, but can I just make it 2 songs in? I think people are pretty amazing when you put them to things. In a lot of cases, yes, you actually can do the thing that you're nervous of doing. Right as I get in bed, doing the typical doom scrolling thing, right? My girlfriend texts me that she ruined doom scrolling because she's not doom, but she messages me. She's like, hey, are you still up? And I was like, yeah, but how are you still up? She actually has a job that she has to wake up early for. She works in tech. So I was like, oh boy, I forgot about that. And she's like, yeah, how long are you gonna be up for? And I was like, nah, I have no clue. And she came over and we just got to talk, which was really nice. I think it's easy to forget how important just those little things are, right? It's so easy to get caught up in our own stuff that we forget how much just simply our presence can be helpful for someone else. And in that case, it was really helpful for me. I did forego a little bit of sleep to do that, but I think there's different ways to kind of restore yourself, right? And like I could have gotten a little bit of extra sleep and not seen her. That would have restored me physically, but not, you know, emotionally or mentally. My dad talks about it. He says everyone has pillars of their life that they need to feel good about themselves, whether that's work or family or your own like personal health, all that kind of stuff. Everyone has pillars, and if those pillars are lacking, then that load is going to be distributed onto the other pillars. And I don't think that's a fair amount of pressure to put on anything. It just gets me to reflect on how little things like whether or not you reach out to that person could really make all the difference as far as like how they feel in their day. When I was a kid, there was this commercial that would play all the time for this toy called Zuzu or Juju Pets, I believe. They were meant to be like little hamsters that would just like walk around and stuff. And they had like a ninja version, and I loved ninjas. So I was like, oh, I need to have the ninja hamsters, Mom. And my mom was very sweet. We went and got an absurd amount of these little ninja hamster toys. And would you believe it? They took after real hamsters because they just didn't work. They were just dead on arrival. I remember the disappointment of finding out they didn't work and then having to collect all of them and like bring them in to the Target to return. They're made to look like little hamsters, so you're just carrying these like dead little husks of hamsters in my arms. As I go and say, give me my money back. That was not my mom's most happy moment. To her, it's just, I spent this money and now the dumb little pieces of plastic don't work and my kid's sad.
What was your yearbook quote? Did you have one?
I didn't graduate.
Oh, I didn't know that.
You didn't know that I'm a high school dropout?
I had no idea you were a high school dropout. That's wild.
Oh, yeah.
Congratulations.
Thanks. I had enough
almost
credits to
was, so-
graduate, and then, funnily enough, it was like March of 2020. I had to go into the hospital, and like they wouldn't let me make up any of the tests that I missed while I was in the hospital. The exams that I missed made up like a substantial portion of my grade. And they just wouldn't let me make it up. And I was like, super duper. Well, if no one's interested in my education, and like I was willing to do it and stuff, like I wasn't allowed to have any technology in the hospital. So I was like, oh, well, if none of us care about this, then like, what's the point of even pretending?
Why should I?
And I dropped out. I got my GED. It was a very easy test. I like got the
I've
results for my GED like as I was walking to the parking lot. They just like message you on your phone like, oh, congrats, you no longer have to do school. And that's been true. I have not done school since. I think there is like a little bit of like survivorship bias. So people will look at like people who dropped out of high school and be like, well, look, they succeeded, so you don't need high school. And it's like, no.
No, you probably do.
Jay was a baby model.
I was. That's true. My parents wanted me to get into modeling when I was very young. And my first ever gig was for the Walmart diaper brand. And I'll tell you how Walmart makes their money. They did not change that image for subsequently like 16 years. I was
so
the Walmart
awesome.
diaper baby when I was like 16 or 17.
You didn't get residuals or anything?
No, for some reason we didn't. It was a one and done gig.
They should do like a Where Are They Now segment, and it's just you wearing the diapers now. Dude, you could have spiraled off of that and been the diaper guy. You still could be the diaper guy, just not for the reasons you want to be.
No, and with a much higher profit margin as well, I'm sure.
As a 23-year-old man, just like,
not much has changed in this.
they
in the
still
time
work.
Frame. They still got it.
Yeah. I almost died on one of my sister's field trips.
What?
Yeah, there was a summer, like, enrichment thing. I don't know what you would call it, but, like, they were like, oh, go with us to Europe, like a bonding thing or whatever. And I went with my sister because my mom chaperoned. They didn't have anyone to watch me, so I was just like, got it, I'll be there. You know, the way that you're kind of just dragged along to things as a kid. One thing I realized in Ireland is that pedestrians do not have the right of way the same way that we do in the United States. And so I started walking across the street. I thought that I was good to go because I was, like, catching up to some other party. My mom yells out, no! And I look behind and I see that there is a bus coming, and then I freeze. My mom starts running out into the street, which was only gonna do something just in adding another casualty to this. The bus got close, it did not stop. I moved out of the way. My mom did not get hurt, I did not get hurt, but man, was that scary.
I bet it was. I mean, it would have been like living in through a rom-com if you'd have had a handsome man on the other side of the street that dove out and saved you.
That's true.
I was one of the body actors for Exploding TNT. Pretty much, it is just like people in Minecraft with certain skins on that will look down and sad and hold shift. When they're happy and talking, they'll like jump around and spin around, and that was like a very popular style of content.
How did you get that gig?
If I'm not mistaken, I was in a call with a mutual friend of ours on Skype. They were like, oh yeah, I'm doing body acting for a YouTuber called Exploding TNT. Did not know who that was. And he's like, oh, do you want to come on and help and like be a character? I'm like, oh, sure. I got like 40 minutes until my next college class. Yeah, why not? Sure enough, I hopped on. My first video I appeared in was If Minecraft Was Made for Girls.
Nice.
I played a girl, and I was involved in the
Very
pillow
progressive.
fighting scene. He retextured snowballs as pillows. Did like a pillow fight.
How many views does that have? Like 50 million?
Probably more than most people get across their entire channel cumulatively.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Exploding TNT did absurdly well back in the day.
Oh my god, people love that content.
Yeah, how'd you explain that to your parents? Like, what did they think of the videos when they watched it?
They really started to notice that stuff when I was getting paid, and it helped
Yeah,
a lot
that
being able
does
to
help.
cover the apartment.
Yeah.
Just like, oh yeah, thank you, Exploding TNT, for putting me through college. I looked back at that stuff with nothing but fondness. I actually visited TNT very recently.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we did an escape room.
You locked the doors and said, how about we talk about residuals?
The puzzle was my TD Bank account number.
As soon as things hit off with my girlfriend, we like matched one night, and then the next day I was like, hey, you want to go to the farmer's market? She said yes. So we're walking around the farmer's market and stuff, and I'm just instantly smitten with this girl. I'm like, she is so cool. Wow. I walk her back to her car in the parking garage, and then when we get there, I'm like, all right, see you later. We hug, and then I'm like, am I supposed to kiss her? I didn't even have time to think. She kisses me, and I'm like, I didn't even know that was happening. And then she walks over to her car. She's like, all right, I'll see you later. And I'm like, wait, come on, I need a do-over. I could do better than that. And then I walked over to her, I pulled her close, and we had a different kiss, and she was like, yeah, good job. And I was like, thank you. I can kiss better. I just need to be aware of the agenda. I'm a planner. Thank you very much. So that was our first date. And then the next day, right before the Super Bowl, I was like, hey, you want to go to a painting class? We went to one of those like paint and sip classes is what they call them. I don't drink. She really doesn't either. So we didn't sip. We just got to paint. And the theme of the painting was Bridge of Love. I'm not a good artist. I used to do a lot of sketching as a kid, but now I just can't do that. We get there, and I don't know how to do it, so I'm like, I'm gonna cover up my lack of painting skills with just a joke. That's how I do most of my skating by in life. So I painted a monster behind the bridge, and I have a picture I'll show. Ultimately, I decided to paint the Bridge of Lovecraft, and there was a giant eldritch monster in the background, and I thought that was fun. The date went well. We both go to watch our Super Bowl at our own independent parties, and what we didn't realize is our feed for the Super Bowl was 30 minutes behind. And so I'm messaging this girl. I'm just trying to seem topical and witty, so I'm talking about the Super Bowl and stuff, not realizing that the feed that we watched was 30 minutes delayed. So we were messaging her things, and then she'd have to be like, oh yeah, it's pretty good. And then I realized ultimately that we're 30 minutes behind, and I'm like texting her about the halftime show like as like quarter 3 is happening. She's like, I was so confused as to why you were texting so late. And I was like, dang it! I remember in school, I just start getting like a lot of notifications on my laptop. We were supposed to be doing something in history class, and I was like, what in the world is going on? At the end of every video, Mark Brown from Game Maker's Toolkit did Mark Recommends. I was one of the things that he recommended. I like recently hit 1,000 subscribers, and then that day I was at 2,000. And I remember it coincided with like a very eventful time in my life. My family fosters, and we had just recently had a placement of a few foster girls. Like that was incredibly exciting, but also like no sleep. My mom had surgery around that time, and like the girls that we had were given to us at like 8 months old, 2 years old, and 5 years old. Those are all age ranges that require like a lot of attention, and it was split. My mom had surgery, and all of a sudden she couldn't just like rock the baby. And so that fell on me. So I remember like my junior year of high school, one night in particular, I just had to like wake up and try to get this baby to go to sleep. And she, poor thing, just like could not. I remember she was crying. I felt like crying because it took so long. We were at like 4 a.m, and she soaked through my shirt in tears, and I was like, this is very sad. Was not getting a lot of sleep. I was dropping the ball in a couple of different things. I like dropped out of the honor society, not because my grades slipped, but just because like I couldn't attend meetings. I would tell my teachers straight, like, I'm going through a lot right now. My family's going through a lot. I remember us being at a mall. I think that was our first night trying to babysitter. So like my mom, my dad, and I are all just at like a Johnny Rockets, which is not a good restaurant. And we're just sitting there and all exhausted and just like talking about how crazy it is to see this like subscriber count go up. When they did the Formula 1 race here in Vegas, they forgot to seal the manhole covers, right? That seems like it shouldn't be much of a problem because manhole covers weigh a lot. But when you're going with a Formula car, it has so much downforce that it's basically creating like a vacuum underneath it. So it sucked up one of the manhole covers when they were doing a test race.
What?
Yeah. So if you just imagine just going thunk, and there was 150 of those that they had to fix like in the middle of the night in Vegas. Wild.
Oh my god, that's a tricky little operation.
So if you ever feel bad about how something you're doing is going, just remember that like they shut down the Vegas Strip for what felt like months, like all this time and all this money spent, billions of dollars, and even they didn't get that right.
It really is such a like, clear-headed reminder to know I am not the worst there is in the world, Maybe close.
Yes.
but like, there's
I mean,
always someone who's messing up more.
That's also fair, but like, if it was me in that situation, I wouldn't have known about manhole covers. I would have been like, send it.
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely.
I have a will.
You have a will? Mm-hmm. Dang, why do you have a will? What made you want to get a will? Are you concerned?
My whole family at the beginning of the year, we went to an estate lawyer. Particularly after my niece was born, we just decided that it was a good time to kind of get that stuff in order.
Dang, that's so responsible.
Yeah, it's really like a weird experience because you have to confront a lot of like situations. Like, what would you do if like you were put on a, what's the term for like
a DNR?
Yeah, like do not resuscitate, exactly.
Oh, interesting. Right. I guess that makes sense. No, I've never answered the question.
Which lifesteal member would you give your YouTube channel to?
Oh, that's a great question. I would normally say I'd give it to RecRap just because it'd probably do better than it ever has before. But at the same time, I don't want to be dead watching my channel do well without me.
Yeah.
So,
it's kind of like trading up.
yeah, exactly. My channel will have forgotten all about me.
Like, oh, RecRap 3 is doing perfectly fine.
Everybody's happier now that I'm gone. Oh, it's so messed up. So what did you leave me in your will?
I don't know, I guess I could go change it. I mean, you say that. Could you imagine if I died, I mean, knock on wood, and you were summoned to Las Vegas and they were like, hey, he wanted you to have this. Like, what could I leave you that would be justifying going out of your way to go to that thing?
The TNT mini fridge.
Okay, yeah, you can have the TNT mini fridge.
Yes.
We don't even use it. It's not a good fridge. It's a decoration at best. And with that, folks, YouTube thinks that you might like this video. So see if they're right and have a good one. All right?